Welcome to the Turntable, a roundtable discussion featuring music industry professionals, artists, and anyone with a vested interest in the music business. So today on the Turntable, we have some absolute superstars that I'm surrounded by, and we are going to talk about revenue for independent artists in a world of streaming that is clearly known to pay fractions of a penny, and any recommendations and just maybe some of the things that you folks are doing to mitigate that. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that we go around the table and have all of our phenomenal guests introduce themselves. So if you don't mind, why don't we start with the Vibe King, Creative Angel?
Yo, what's up? What's up, man? How you doing, Israel?
Good.
What's up, everybody? Good to see y'all. Good to meet some of y'all for the first time. Good to see some of y'all again. My name is Creative Angel. They call me the Vibe King. Positive Vibes has been my whole brand and my whole movement out here in Orlando. I do positive hip-hop music, spiritual music, Christ-like music. And I have a brand as well, which is Creative Universe. And, you know, I'm happy to be back here. I was a, what did you call it? A 3300 alumni? Artist alumni, right? So I didn't actually come to Full Sail, but in 2020 we did a 6-month management kind of deal with 3300 and Full Sail, and Israel was a part of that. Shout out to Becca, shout out to Kenny for looking out. So I'm happy to be back. Let's talk about some independent grind. Let's talk about the ways we can make money. And yeah, man, thank you for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. It was a pleasure to have you with us 6 months ago, and I love that independent grind. That's what we have to subtitle this episode.
For real, right?
DJ RedTables.
That's me. Hello.
Yeah, tell us about what you got going on. You got a whole movement going on.
Hi, everybody. My name's DJ RedTables, otherwise known as the friendliest DJ in the O. Nobody laughed. I do an assortment of things. I guess I'll start out with the big overall. I am the leader of the Free World Generals, which is a platform that gives everybody a voice. We throw showcases. We help artists that are not usually seen on the radar by giving them a chance to perform. If it's your first time performing, we give you that opportunity. We might just be like, hey, come do like a 5-7 minute set. Don't worry about paying. Just get yourself together and come out and enjoy yourself. As you can imagine, that is a lot of hit and miss, you know, especially in the showcase game, because it's still a business at the end of the day. But to see an artist that doesn't or hasn't performed for the first time and they kill it, it makes it all the better. I also have a radio podcast called Free World Radio, where we give everybody a voice as well. Pretty much, if you have a story, which everybody at this table and everybody in this room does, I want to hear it. I want to know what made you into the person you are today. And as everybody knows, while looking through just looking at your friends and stuff, some people had it harder than others. Some people were given a golden spoon. But at the end of the day, we're all still in the same path. So what made your path different than mine? I want to know. I want to dissect it. I want to actually know what grinds your gears, as Peter Griffin would say. I'm also just an advocate for independent artists. Nothing against labels, but Free World Generals isn't a label. We're more like a community of people. So if you look to your left or right and you're like, you know what, that artist is doing pretty good, don't be scared. Go network. Like literally, he probably is wanting a feature from you. You don't even know because you haven't even opened your mouth to go say anything. So yeah, that's what I do, you know. And of course, I'm DJ RedTables. I DJ. I've been DJing since about 2010. I started at Louisiana Tech in Grambling. Stopped for a while because of the military. Found my way out to Florida. I've been DJing for Full Sail since August of 2022. And I've done the last 3 Hall of Fames and made a lot of cool friends and network. Hi,
That's phenomenal. And by the way, one of my favorite things that you shared is the fact that you have a platform specifically meant to uplift the world of independent artists. And they certainly could use all the help and support that they could get. So thank you for doing that. And I will say, before I get into our next guest, I have to say we could probably do an episode, or we can do an episode on every single one of our guests today. There is no doubt about that. But I must preface this by saying this gentleman to my right, I know for a fact that we could probably spend hours talking about all of the amazing things that he's accomplished. He is a composer. He is a songwriter. He is a business owner. He is a rapper. He is a holistic artisan. And on top of that, he is a sync licensing professional with placements in no less than Black Panther 2, the NFL, and plenty of other noteworthy and name-recognized programming. The amazing Deraj.
Good Lord, man. All right, let's calm down a little bit, all right? Let's calm down. No, Israel, I appreciate it. And thank y'all for putting this on. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that y'all don't see, so give it up for yourselves. I'm Deraj. I'm based out of Orlando here and Full Sail alum, so shout out. It's always a pleasure to come back and, share what I can. As far as me professionally, I'm a recording artist, specifically in the hip hop space. Like you said, I've done a number of things with, my catalog, namely positioning it for TV and film placement. So we've had thousands of placements with brands that you are probably familiar with, from Marvel to Netflix to Hulu to JohnPaul's recent movie he came out with, him. We had a promo spot for that as well. So we love it. It's just a different pathway that I kind of stumbled into during my time previously signed at a label. I had one of my songs picked up by ESPN, and that kind of sowed a seed for me. But yeah, so that's been, my journey that evolved into me formalizing my own company, Seeing Here, which we focus on hip hop, pop, R&B for TV, film, games, ads, and trailers. And in addition to that, I have a heart to, give back, and wanted to see other independent artists, really growing and experiencing, kind of some of the success that I was seeing. So we formalized a community called Rep Indie, and we help independent hip hop artists learn how to monetize their music with TV and film placements as well. So yeah, hopefully we can dig into all of that while we're here.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. And our next guest, Halston, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about some of the amazing things you've been doing with your band. And also, if you could tell us a little bit about, because that is different from the world of some of our other panelists, the very specific genre and niche that you're working in.
So my name is Halston. I'm in a band called Ease from right here in Orlando. I've been playing music since I was 14, 25 now, and I pretty much do everything from, I would say, to keep it short, I would say the Warped Tour scene, if any of you guys are familiar with that. So show promotion as well, booking shows for bands, and yeah, love playing music. And I would say the niche is sort of like the rock umbrella, but we like to do everything from metal to pop punk. So a lot different from the rest of the panel, but I like that. I think this is really cool. And thank you to Full Sail and everyone here for having me. This is really cool, man.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, that just happened too.
Yes, sir.
So, I think it makes sense to focus on something that Deraj mentioned a minute ago. I think everybody knows that in the world of streaming, clearly important, clearly ubiquitous, like everybody streams, whether you're on a Spotify or you're just on YouTube. That is how most people consume music. There are a lot of other ways, but that is how people consume music. But for anybody inside, you also know, unless you're Drake, or, you're someone that is, really having a moment. When we're talking about revenue, it certainly could be considered poultry. to say the least. We're talking about, in most cases, less than half a cent or substantially less, depending on what platform we're talking about. So I would love to start off with Deraj. And if you don't mind telling us a little bit about, for someone that is not familiar with sync licensing, which essentially is having your music placed if you are the songwriter and composer, or if you own the master for that, in visual media, whether we're talking about film, TV, video games, or something else, of which you've had all of those and more. If you could talk about what how do you first learn about it and then break into it?
Sure. Yeah, so sync licensing is one of those, I feel like, insider terms. I feel like the average artist, I mean, they may know more so now because I feel like it's becoming a little bit more popular. But, the average artist, if you ask them what is sync licensing, it's like, deer in the headlights. But simply put, it's just, visual media being synchronized, or music being synchronized with visual media. So that's all it is. So whenever you're seeing anything commercially that is visual media that has music attached to it, they need what's called a license in order to legally use that piece of music. And a license comes with a licensing fee, is what's paid to all of the rights holders for the composition or copyright holder. So, yeah, I guess as far as how you break into this space, I guess maybe I'll start with my journey. It was a little unique because I mentioned earlier I used to be signed to a label. It's actually a Christian hip hop label called RMG, and they're based out of Nashville. And around 2015 or so, randomly somebody was following the label who worked over at ESPN. And I had just released my first EP as a signed artist with the label, and they just happened to like one of the songs. And it was a first of first for the label, for myself. And so we were in kind of new territory. And again, like that sowed the seed, but then I was trying to figure out, like, how can I do more of this? Like, how do I, take the songs that I'm creating to, get them used in bigger brands? Because I never, and it's weird, it never crossed my mind to try to, get my music on TV or movies or any of that kind of stuff until it happened. I was just like, oh, duh, that's a thing. You know what I mean? And what made me, I guess, even more excited to do it, because the song that they use is actually a song that I had produced and wrote myself. And so it wasn't like I got groomed by the label, to create a certain sound that brands wanted. It just so happens that, it worked as is. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And I say that as well to give a lot of confidence to independent artists. Like, where you are right now is enough, to have your music used with major brands. And they're paying, handsomely for one usage, of your, of your IP. And so as far as getting into this space, like when I was doing that research, I'm actually a benefactor of a course that I took. And so when I left the label, I was like, I'm giving myself 6 months to figure out how to do this thing. And I was just on YouTube University, like finding anybody remotely close to music for TV and film. And I actually ended up finding a course that was running for 6 months exactly on how to get your music in TV and film. It's called Six Figure Songwriting. And that really gave me what I feel like a head start and, skip a lot of the learning curve with getting into this space, because, I think when most artists hear and figure out as independents that they can get their music in TV and film, there's like, all right, well, who do I send my music to? You know what I mean? It's like, where do I go? But there are some things to know that help you sustain a career in this thing and not, kind of work against yourself. Just, even how you send an email matters, within our industry, but also just making sure your business is tied up right. And, we can get into the weeds, all that kind of stuff, but I would say I'm a big advocate for coaching and mentorship, and there's communities out there that teach it, i.e., shameless plug, Rep India is one of them. But I know a ton of them that teach this stuff, even though a lot of people may not know they exist. And then the other way is connecting with music libraries or licensing agencies, because these are individuals who are looking for music, and mainly from independent artists, because, independents are in a unique space because they own 100% of their copyright on the master and publishing. So, agencies aren't having to, or brands aren't having to jump through hoops and do tons of clearances between on these pop records, there's 20 different writers on here, you know what I mean? To be able to get clearance from every single one of those individuals. And also when their notoriety is that much higher, the fees raise, you know what I mean? And that's the difference between $500,000, low six figures to, for major, $500,000 up to $1 million for major acts. But for independent artists, that scale can be anywhere from, 3, 4, 5, even low six figures, for one song for independent artists. And we're the alternative to the majors, you know what I mean? So you can make a good living as an independent artist with just licensing your music. So.
Thank you. I love that. And that was like a mini course right there.
I talk about this stuff all the time, so I got it all.
I love that. I love that. I mean, let's just say that you dropped a lot of gems that are actionable and also different routes to that. And then, of course, made a wonderful point about, so many times the independent artist is disadvantaged in some way.
Yeah.
And in this circumstance, the independent artist actually has a viable in that is seen as beneficial for even some of those big players that may not want to drop the type of money that it might take to secure music from a huge artist that maybe does have 100 writers. So thank you so much. The Vibe King.
Yeah.
One of the things I was really impressed by you, early on when I first met you, is that besides the fact that you were very, uplifting and inspirational, which I think we need in hip hop, but also that you were really tapped into merchandise and your brand. That's a huge deal, right? Like, irregardless of what kind of business we're talking about, understanding your brand. A lot of artists don't understand their brand. If you don't understand your brand, how are others? But you really tapped into your brand and you were able to channel that into merchandise, not only merchandise, but merchandise that was very personalized.
Yeah.
So much so that you were creating, which is not common. A lot of people just outsource it. That's fine. But you were creating jewelry. You're screen printing at home.
Yeah.
Like, I'm seeing your merch right now. Tell us a little bit about your journey into merchandising, and also, if you don't mind dropping some gems for those that might be watching that still haven't tapped into that. And you'd be surprised how many artists, I think we all know, you visit, their Instagram, they don't have a website. Not only do you have a website, you have a site just for your brand and the products that you're making available. If you could talk about that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So I've been making music probably since I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I'm 33 now. So when I was 18 or 19, I really started taking the music thing serious, and I was in a part with the group, and we were gonna get our first deal when one of my friend's moms, she became our manager, and she was connected to Sony at that time, the label. So they had kind of a vision for us when we were that age that they were gonna, this deal was gonna go through, and that we were kind of gonna be the new Black Eyed Peas of South America, because I rapped in Spanish. And my boy, he sang in English, and then they had this girl that sang as well. And their whole idea for us, this is my first taste of the music industry when I'm 19. The whole idea for us was that's what we're gonna be. They're gonna take us and make us global superstars, right? So a lot of things happened that that deal fell through. It didn't happen. Something happened with the production, and something happened with the management, and then things fell through. And for me as a 19. You're okay with the vision of being at that age, we're all man, we just want to deal, we just want to blow up. And I felt that was the opportunity. So when that fell apart, I was kind of lost for a little bit, trying to figure out what am I gonna do next? How do I continue in my career when I felt I had a dream deal, and how was I gonna move forward? So I started talking to my cousin, and this is around This is happening around 2011, 2012. And I start like, all right, cool. I'm gonna record a mixtape. I'm gonna, go the independent route and just keep pushing out work, keep doing work. But it wasn't until 2015 that me and my cousin, we were like, man, we've been doing all these open mics. We've been doing this, but it's like we're not earning any money, and it's going to be hard to sustain this independently, going to these shows and not getting paid and doing these things. So we started to figure out like, look, we need to have something with us at the events. And like, so we were like, we sat down because he lived in New York. My cousin's named Creative J. He started the company with me, which is Creative Universe. So we sat down one day. We were like, man, we need something that represents us in a higher way when we're out there, something that is us, like who we are, and how we're gonna do that and also survive at the same time. If we're gonna go after this dream without no major backing, we don't come from anybody that was like connected in the music industry or had a big budget or anything like that. So we're like, yo, let's create some hats that's A+ vibes on them, because that's at the time that's what we were into and we were representing, and we wanted to uplift people with that. So in 2015 we created some of these hats, which by the way we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Creative Universe. Yeah, so this was 2015. In September, I incorporated my company. And from there, I just, I started doing the same thing I was doing, like a lot of open mics in Orlando, a lot of freestyles and stuff, but I did it with my brand now. And I was like, hey, can I have a table? Can I set a table up and set my hats together? Because like I said, most of these shows weren't paying. And that's how I started to build that within the community. Open mic after open mic, night after night, show after show, having a pop-up shop and setting my items and my shirts. And bracelets came in a little bit later because I was like, man, this is really working. I want to continue to really sustain, because everything I was getting, I was putting it right back into music. And I think that's just like a small gem right there. Like for independent artists, like it takes a while to get paid, man. You know what I mean? Like, like if you're not willing to do it for real for like 10 years, like, and really sustain in a way where you're like, man, that you'll see that, every sale, like, really feels different when it's your hat, your bracelet, your brand. People, they just enjoy the show, then they're gonna walk by the table because the whole thing is bringing value. And that was the thing in my mind initially, because like hip hop and rap, like it's very like self-serving. It's like who I am and what I do and my flow and my skill, and a lot of us love that braggadocious part of hip hop because it's part of the culture and how I grew up, right? So at a point I started thinking, but what am I doing for other people that is gonna want them to come listen to me or come buy a ticket or come, see me at the shows? Because during that time in Orlando, it was like XXXTentacion was performing, and we had the Swan Posse, and we had Tyler Yahweh, and we had Post Malone coming to Orlando, and it was like all of these things were blowing up, and I was seeing these shows packed, and I'm like, man, like how do I get my buzz going? But I realized if I wasn't bringing value to people, whether it was uplifting them or whatever the case may be, then people wouldn't want to come either. So I was like, you know what, like I really want to find a way to uplift everybody. And of course, I've always been on a spiritual journey, tapping in with God, and just what he wanted the purpose for me in this life was to uplift people and let them know that it is possible. Because, I'm from Venezuela, I'm from South America, and growing up there, like, you don't really see like ways out, especially now, they're dealing with communism and things like that. So I just started to realize how blessed I was, and I turned that into my brand, my company, who I was, really mainly to survive as an independent artist. And from doing all the shows and working the night scene, that's how I was able to meet everybody that I did and continue to elevate my company. And now we have a service-based part of the company and their umbrella too, where we help people press their shirts and bring their visions to life and doing creative direction. So I invested in my heat press, and I invested in all the tools, because when you're an independent artist, you have to build the machine, man. You have to build the machine, because if you don't have a backing of the machine doing it, then you're going to be spending a lot. Because I tried the outsourcing first, but then it's like you have to get 20, 30, 40, 50 shirts. You end up with a lot of overhead. And this was before drop shipping was a thing, right? This was before drop shipping changed the whole game, right? But and there's still things with that I was like, it's not personalized as well, because you're ordering it through a third party and then they're shipping it. I tried it and stuff, but with me, it's like I felt like, okay, I have my heat press. I can, whatever custom color you want today, give me the creative expression to create you whatever it is that you wanted. So I started serving people in a way where, what is it that you want to create? I can create it for you. And man, that's how we've been rocking it for 10 years, man, with the brand, the company, and every show I've done and being able to perform everywhere in the city and even do the Amway halftime show was just some of those things where you just like, wow, God really placed us here, for a reason and a purpose. And he shows confirmation, of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And when you uplift people, it's just going to come back to you. And as an independent artist, just have to be creative and you have to be able to leverage something you can bring value to people. That way they can come spend $1 with you and it's a win-win, so.
That's phenomenal. And it's inspirational indeed. And also plenty of gems that I think apply to anybody that's taking their career seriously. I love that you said you have to put in the time. And I would love to ask Halston, if you don't mind, and obviously a different genre, if maybe you could talk a little bit about some of what Creative Angel touched on, the live space, performing, connecting with the audience. And really, there is nothing like that environment, being able to perform directly to a live audience. There is nothing more powerful. I've said it time and time again. I bet you if you went to a concert for the first time 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or in my case, more, you'll never forget that first show, good or bad. If you could maybe share a little bit about your experiences on the performance side, and also if you want to add anything to the merch experience of the live space.
No, yeah. So for bands, especially nowadays, live shows is everything. Like outside of social media, like to get any type of social media following just from word to mouth, it's all based from shows, having people come out. And yeah, especially with like merch. That's interesting you brought that up. When it comes to making real profit from live performances, because I know everyone here knows it can be hard to make money from local shows and stuff like that. Most of the time that is how we make our money. So it's from shirts, hats, stickers, decals, pretty much whatever you want to make to sell. That's how most of the time we've made our money. Trying to think, but yeah, the local shows wise is everything. It's especially for our type of music, like you brought up Warped Tour earlier. It's a whole gathering. That's how new bands really get discovered nowadays, outside of social media, of course. But even then, now that's sort of turned into a blender. You can go on your phone and see 100 different bands, and how are you going to stick out? It's like a whole bunch of different you got to be different. Exactly, you just have to be different, find creative ways, even making content, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well today. So yeah, for sure.
Thank you. And this is really for anyone that wants to share when it comes to performing live, booking shows, or opportunities to be in front of an audience. There are a lot of opportunities to be in an audience. You create those. If you could talk about how you go about securing those, whether they're paid or not, because even the ones that maybe aren't paid give you an opportunity to sell merch, or clearly acquire new followers and hopefully fans. But I would love to hear from whoever wants to share how you go about creating opportunities to be in front of a live audience.
I guess I'll start since I'm the only one. It's not as hard as everybody thinks to go book a venue, as long as you have your who, what, when, where, how. And I say that because literally that's been my formula since I've been throwing shows in Orlando. I started off just doing Nightshade Lounge by the Kia Center. I knew the owners really well. They kind of baby stepped me into, this is what you should do when you walk into a venue. This is what you should look out for. Ask for the security. Is there a DJ provided? How's the sound system? Just little things. But Of course, starting out in the nightclub does not have anything when you start moving up into bigger venues and more professional venues. And I learned that hard lesson when I started working at Beecham. And I started working with the social and the actual Beecham, and I was helping the book artists. I was helping to secure the DJs and everything like that, because now you're dealing with a whole different monster. Now you're dealing with employees. You're dealing with not only the security of your staff, but the security of gatherers coming in. And I used pretty much those two's experience, and there was a lot more L's than there were W's in that time frame. That was my first year and a half here in Orlando, and I laugh about it now, but no, there were, out of 10 shows, I say about 8 of them failed where I didn't make money. The show may have went great. It was awesome. Everybody, bottles over here, everybody performed, we got content for days. But then when you look at the business side of it, there's nothing winning. And realistically, last year, I told myself that this year, at the beginning of the year, I wanted to be different. I wanted to be a promoter, an event coordinator in Orlando that actually gave the artists something to work for. Instead of artists, like y'all said, y'all pointed out, most artists just come to shows and they just perform and leave. And I wanted to give something for artists to look forward to. So then I started making what's called Hip Hop Society. And the first place that I actually took it serious and I actually put my best foot down was the Abbey downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is a big step from like doing it in nightclubs and stuff. And you have all these different artists that are like, oh, well, I'm used to performing in a club, this, that, and that. It's like, you can't do that here because this is a whole different crowd. What are you going to do to sell yourself? And it's amazing to see what some artists will do to promote themselves rather than just sit back and let the promoter do it for them.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those are the artists that really want something. Those are the artists that really take their career serious. Of course, as a event coordinator, I don't expect the artists to bring like a whole crowd with them. Like at the end of the day, no matter how good you are, the person throwing the event should have enough marketing and pull to be able to have some sort of crowd there without the artist having to bring a crowd for that to be the crowd. So when I made that W, finally, I took it a step forward. And the last venue I did was at the Dr. Phillips Center. The biggest L I've ever taken. And I'm gonna say it on this podcast. I'm surrounded by humble people, and I'm sure y'all understand where I'm coming from. It was great. We did it phenomenal. We did something that no other promoter in this city did. We put independent artists on a stage that literally anybody could come see in a real theater system.
Yeah.
The back end of that we still working on, because with trying to make the vision possible, I took shortcuts. I cut some of the pricing that I was supposed to charge all the artists. I didn't charge as much as I was supposed to for tickets. We didn't have that merch table that we should have had sitting on the outside with all our brands and different artists and stuff like that. So little things like that is what amounted to us not making the profit that could have came from what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And all that to me ties into, the independent artist scene and everything. Is nobody is really giving these artists chances to be great like that.
Mm-hmm.
They just most people just give the artist, it's like this bottle of water. I know you're thirsty, so I'm just going to set this right here. Why not take you to the water fountain down the hallway where you could just push a button and keep drinking?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just going to give you this bottle of water, so you got to ask for more. To me, that's not right. Like at the end of the day, you're supposed to, as promoters, as DJs, especially as DJs, we're supposed to give the artist something to push toward. It's fine and dandy to get your song played in a club. I get it. But as you said, it is a different monster when your song is getting played in a movie theater across the world, and you're in a movie theater with your family and they're like, oh, that's you. That's nothing compared to just being on the stage. But depending on the kind of artist you are, depending on what your end goal is, that standing on the stage in front of a crowd full of people is everything.
Yeah.
So, my goal, that I've been pushing for, and a lot of other people in the city have been slowly coming to, is just to give the independent artists, give that one artist that that just doesn't have a lot of anything. They might not have that good team. Show them. It takes one time. It takes a village to raise people to what you want them to actually be. And I believe that, Orlando is slowly, Orlando's not broken, but there are a lot of different sections. And if a lot of those sections were to come together, then we would see amazing artist development in Orlando.
About that earlier. We got cut off in a conversation.
Oh man, it's the conversation that comes up between anybody that's serious about artist development in Orlando.
Yeah,
everybody in Orlando that is really serious about any kind of artist development, throwing showcases. Of course, like I said, there's people that just throw shows. Nothing against them. We need that in the city because there has to be a place for people to go that just want to perform. They don't care. They got that new song. I'm going here. Why? Because I know there's going to be people there and I'm just going to see what the crowd do. But there also has to be the platform that you go to when you're like, hey, I heard that you take artists and you give them real good challenges. I want to perform on a real stage with a real system, with a real audio tech, so I can come do a sound check, and I want to have a real routine with my performance. That is a very different beast that a lot of artists are not ready to have that conversation with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jules.
Yeah.
So I'm curious from the other side, as someone that promotes shows, I'm curious from the artists at the table, if maybe you could share a little bit about how you go about booking a show. Again, it could be at a cafe, it could be something like, a venue that maybe has a 500 cap, as some of the ones you mentioned, or bigger, or maybe some other opportunity, whether it's paid or not. How do you go about securing those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, it's different ways to go about it, but I think more importantly is just knowing, kind of having a customer retention system that you've had for a while has helped me out a lot, because even when it's that drought season where it's nobody's booking or nobody's calling, because one of the things I feel like people just don't care as much. It's a sad part about it. It's a sad part about the game right now. I don't feel like people care as much as they used to give those opportunities. I mean, some people do, right? Clearly we have that. And we were just talking about earlier, there was a point in the city, we were saying 2015 or 2020, where there were a lot of different moving pieces as to what was working in the scene and why people were succeeding and why it was elevating. And we had different venues. At the time, we had Soundbar, we had Back Booth, which was then Soundbar. And then we had different people throwing those kind of events. We had Fusion Showcase with Jen. Then we had TSA Showcase, and we had For the Culture Showcase. And we had people that really cared about actually putting events together for the culture. So during those years, it was more hey, this entity's throwing this. And then you had the radio station more involved too. You had 104.5 The Beat throwing events, and you had YS Baby. And I think one of the things in my opinion, what worked with me working with YS Baby and having a song with him that hit the radio and we were able to do the campaign we did, is because we merged different sides of the city that weren't merged together before, because it was either you're doing the Beacham or you're doing the other side, you know what I mean? And bringing that together was really helpful, and that was one of the things that I felt was helping me get in those shows at the time, was the connections I was making and the people that I was working with, the stages we were touching, and then from that something else popped up. But fast forward till now, because there isn't a big of a conglomerate who cares for one another, that's working on each other in that way, with each other, you have to more than likely continue to build your own customer system where who your fans are. That way, even if you throw 100 or 200 people show for yourself and you charge people, $20 or $30, you're not going to starve when people are not booking you. Why? Because that if you go to La Russell way, which now everybody's familiar with what La Russell is doing, and and we love him because he's doing a lot of what a lot of independent artists really dreamed of doing that never thought was possible, was build your own machine in your own system and even throw your shows in the backyard, where it's okay, people will tell you what your value is if you allow them to. So going back to the question of, what we're doing the book, I think the most important thing is to be able to throw your own and book your own things in between getting booked and doing different things, because and also connecting with people who are also in that scene of they know how to get booked. Shout out my DJ Dizzle Funk, who also has been getting booked a lot. He'll bring me in for different sets. Like, he does EDM and hip hop music and he blends it all in. But we've been able to tour, just being open to opportunities, right? A lot of like artists with hip hop are just like, no, I want to like rap, here at this venue, or whatever. And then you're like, hey, like if you love doing music and you love spreading the message and you love what you do, be open to the syncs, be open to working with an EDM DJ that's already getting booked. That way you get on the road and you bring your little pop-up, and then now you're making fans all across the nation. And like you were saying earlier, yeah, we take those L's when you throw your own shows, right? We take them, but those L's build the W's later on. So that's why I also did a lot of things outside of just music that helped me earn income, because I knew that I was going to be breaking even for a lot of years. And I'm sure for bands and stuff like that with the Warped Tour, when you have 5 or 6 people playing with you, it's even harder to break that bread. You know what I mean? So I think that one of the best ways to do it is like you were saying, man, build your own show, build your customer fan base, and if you could have 1,000 people that's gonna spend $50 with you a year, you're winning. So
you still winning.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? 100 people. The goal is 1,000 people to spend $100 with you a year. Whether they do that one time or whether they do that 4 times. And I realized, I'm like, if this person bought 4 bracelets from me this year, or 2 hats and 2 shirts, I realized, man, you're one of those customers that have spent $100 with me a year. So there's that loyalty. So we'll help them out look out,
What's interesting about that is I had a different, I guess, pathway into like live shows and performances and stuff like that. Because initially I didn't have, I came to Full Sail for digital arts and design. So my trajectory was visual arts. That's what I was, thinking I was going to do for a career. And then music became more of a thing. And I give that context because I wasn't thinking like, oh, I want to be an artist at some point. And so probably some of the conversations you guys were having to have like early on, I was just oblivious to that kind of stuff. And being fortunate enough to get approached by a label and getting into that ecosystem, they already kind of had their systems, built out. And so I'm just kind of getting plugged in to show opportunities. So I actually never had the type of, I guess, indie grind that you all had to endure through. And one of the, I guess, privileges I had with it is because within the Christian market, so and I think the Christian market is a little unique in a sense because a lot of times artists are performing in front of built-in audiences. And so these aren't audiences that we had to actually grow and nurture and build. It's just like the church did that, you know what I mean? Or the conference did that. Yeah. And that's where a lot of Christian artists found themselves. It's a little different now. And I feel like it was something around like the 2015 to 2020 era where I don't know if it was, and even maybe a little bit before then, where social media and streaming became a lot more prominent. And I think culturally, something with that, I think maybe gave a little bit of apathy with how people engage with music and how people value music, you know what I mean? And so I feel like some of that shift happened when it came to, because I even started to see that during my time with the label as I was nearing the end of it. I didn't know it was the end, but, near the end of it, my shows started to drop, you know what I mean? It's like streaming started to drop a little bit, you know what I mean? And I was starting to realize like, oh, this is like, as an artist on a label, I'm a business partner with another business. And so I have to also think creatively is like, how do I sustain this thing? Because the label is only going to kind of get us so far. And I actually had a very artist-friendly situation with my label. Like they did probably more than most most labels would do for artists. So shout out to them. But one of the things I started to get hip to, and I wish I'd have had this early on, and this whole kind of Ryan Leslie mindset of just owning your audience and how do you go direct to consumer. And I feel like there's a lot more conversations happening about that now, especially because for independent artists, it's so hard to monetize. And so you're having to do all these different things. And because we have so many tools available to us, the expectation is different. It's just like you have all of these like options and opportunities before you make something of it, and now we're having to wear the hats of an A&R and of a film. It's like my man, he's doing content right now versus having, it's like we have to wear all of these hats where traditionally as an artist doing, being signed with a label, you're having some of those pieces supplemented. So it's tough, but I would advocate, and I'm in a little bit of a different space because the majority of my income comes from licensing. You know what I mean? It's like I think I was telling you, Angel, earlier, it's like I wanted to figure out how I can make money with my music without having to be on social media, which I don't know another way to do that outside of licensing your music, because if I were to advise any artist like now, 2025 moving forward, it's like you're going to have to be on social media constantly to build your base. Like I don't see any other way, or doing live shows. Like you're going to have those touch points. But with, licensing is a little unique because like I have a couple different artist aliases that I do music under. My main one is Deraj. I have another one called Sunny O. And I have a third one called Daisy Chain, and then a fourth one called Lucky Stone. And they're all, the reason why I segmented them, because they all sonically are doing different things and they hit different markets. But the last one I just mentioned, Lucky Stone, is the newest one, which I reluctantly did because I have too many aliases. But I did that one because I was working with a label and they predominantly focus on sync. And for them, like being able to have an artist that was exclusive to their label helps them with pitching and courting maybe higher fees for licensing opportunities. But it's we did a whole photo shoot, branded it, looks great. But it has like 6 monthly listeners, you know what I mean? Like probably less than 30 followers on social media, but I've already made like 5 figures from the brand, you know what I mean? With it just being, nobody knows about it, you know what I mean? So that's why it's such a different beast, you know what I mean? I don't know anywhere else in the music industry you can do this, but I do advise any artist that is going a more traditional route, like you got to own your audience, you know what I mean? And that's something even I'm working on now, because I'm working on an album to be released, and I'm always treating it like a new artist, you know what I mean? It's like I'm going grassroots, and my plan is to like build that 1,000, fan base and re-engage and reignite my existing audience. Because again, we are at the mercy of algorithms, nowadays. And so if you don't own your audience and have a way to talk to them at will, you know what I mean? And also they get to know you deeper, and you get to build that relationship with that community. Like you're setting yourself up off of hopes, you know what I mean, that your career is going to sustain itself. Like that's the thing for the independent artists. You do have to take that level of ownership. So at a show, like sign up for Superphone or a similar platform, and give fans your number so that you can, connect with them. Like drop some, exclusive stuff that only they can get if they download it. They really rocking with you. Like create community experiences. Even one of the things that I'm ideating through now is like, I'm all about trying to keep my overhead low, you know what I mean, if I can. And so I'm thinking about like virtual shows. Are there ways to do like virtual experiences or community building where it mitigates some of the risk that I don't have to come out of pocket for everything, but I can just have my internet connection and just set up a Zoom account and just have people pull up and just set up a Stripe account and maybe charge them. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot more like efficient, I think, for artists to just test some stuff. And then with that data, it's like, oh, I got a lot of people that's, tapping in from randomly Kentucky or something like that. Maybe I should pull up and do a show out there. Or maybe my home base is starting to grow more, and now I can actually do something where people are excited to see me in a city versus, not. So that's my thoughts around that whole thing. Because I know I'm in a little different space, but I'm still, I'm a part of the music industry, and I'm also thinking about how does, like, even for our community, like we rebranded ourselves to target independent hip hop artists, specifically like the artist identity, encouraging them to have a brand, show up front facing, even though sometimes you don't even necessarily need it. I know people are making 6 figures without being on social media, like with licensing their music, but brands also want to work with artists. And a lot of times too, like, or sometimes you'll get brands asking for, their Spotify information, their Instagram accounts to see how active they are and try to make those connections. So that's why it is important to still invest in your artist brand and also invest in your community, and all of the above. So
that's the leverage right there. And that's the leverage that
and
it ends up being the leverage.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for that perspective. Certainly distinct, unique. You mentioned Ryan Leslie and you mentioned Superfly. I'm curious if you folks don't mind sharing other platforms, other apps, maybe. I mean, social media is the obvious, whether it be a Patreon, whether it be a Bandcamp, that maybe you use to be able to connect and maybe even monetize those super fans that you've been able to cultivate relationships with.
Yes, absolutely. For me, one is Shopify. Yeah, Shopify has been one that that collects. And I realized, like, at a point in time doing shows, like, I built my team to be like, hey, make sure like we're getting emails with every sale, at the table. So I realized, I think maybe halfway through, maybe 5 years into the business, like, hey, this is like, if we're not making a sale, let's at least get the email.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's at least get the social media. Yeah, that's half the battle right there. And I think with Shopify, what I was able to do is know that, hey, I know that people are coming up to the table at the show that are buying something. I'm getting their email and their phone number. Then on the back end, we can retarget them again and say, hey, I'm having another show here. Or, hey, this is the new drop. This is the new shirt that just came out, exclusively. And just making exclusive, like, deals and drops for them. So I think Shopify is really good. And for music, there's one called Symphony. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's really nice. Is you could create, like, anytime you drop, you can create a small website where it's like you have your links for every page, and then people can pre-save your song, and then they're like pre-saved for life for all your other drops. And then it collects emails and stuff. So it's just all about keeping that, but also having a good spreadsheet to bring things together. Because what happens is, as an independent artist, like, you already know you got to keep up with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, right? So you might have some followers here and some followers there, but kind of bringing that into a spreadsheet together to know, like, hey, at least I know these people are from here, and doubling down on, like, what platform is working as well. Absolutely. It's huge.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I guess if we're just talking about making easy money with artistry, YouTube.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say YouTube, it takes 5 minutes to upload your song that you own on YouTube. It takes $20 to promote it for 1 week, for like 4 days, to get thousands of people all around the world to just see your song. YouTube is also one of the only brands that actually pay people for what they're worth. To a degree.
Big
asterisk. To a degree.
Big asterisk.
But I guess in my own personal experience, YouTube has paid me the most out of, like, every other avenue. I've done the campaigns for 30 days on Instagram when you're just like, you got something going and you got the campaign, click here and stuff like that. Did the TikTok way, you just have, most of those are, like, really attentive. And if you're not willing to be on social media, I hate to say it, every single day to sustain that, the second that you stop posting or that you miss the one algorithm jump, like we all talked about, like, it's all going to go down. And so at least with YouTube, I would say that it somewhat keeps you accountable because, as your video gets up in likes and as you're promoting and everything, it sends you those notifications like, hey, you've reached 1,000 views. You've reached so many subscribers. This person has subscribed to you. This person has commented and stuff like that. So
you get paid with AdSense too.
Yeah.
Right?
If you add the ads and everything, that's I mean, and then others, I would just say distribution platforms, but you just got to be careful because you go to, like, what is it, DistroKid? Yeah, you go on something like that and you realize you're not even getting half your royalties because they're not counting it. and then you go on, I think it's not iTunes, what's the other one? United Masters, and they count like all your Instagram views and everything like that, but they don't count some of the major streaming platforms. So either way, you're still going to be missing some type of money.
Yeah. You got to pull them all together, and that's what I learned. So like you got to add all the bags together in order for it to make sense. Like here's a little bit from streaming, here's something from the show.
Absolutely.
Here's the back end, like the MLC and BMI. A lot of people don't know, like registering your performances too, like BMI Live, like ASCAP. Like you get another check on top of it. So you got to stack all of those in order to like make something shake. You know?
Absolutely.
Other platforms.
Yeah, 3 come to mind. And these are some that I've signed up for and I'm gearing up to start using, but I really like how they're positioned. One is called Even. I don't know if you all heard of Even, but they're a form of distribution, but they also have some like community components within it. But it's like Patreon meets Spotify, if you will. And so you can set your price that you want for, or let your fans pay what they want. And in exchange for that, you're getting, the revenue, but also you're getting the data, a lot of data points. It seems like they give you. I haven't run a campaign enough to see all of the data points, but I've been watching a lot of their, I believe it's their CEO or their founder, him talk about it. I believe he's like an AR he used to be a former A&R for a lot of the majors or something like that. And just had this idea for this tool for artists. And it seems like, again, we're talking about trying to get paid with, what you perceive your value to be, or what you're hoped to be paid as an independent artist. And I'm just like, man, this whole, again, direct to fan, as often as you can. And also if they're providing easy, like if they're building a tech for you to monetize in a way that's, simple, and also re-engage with your audience, because I feel like Spotify would kill it if they would let artists just at the bare minimum talk to their fans. Like they had some type of like, community feed model or something like that to at least incentivize artists to feel like, all right, even if I'm getting paid fraction of a penny, there's something worth being able to talk to my audience and figure out how to get them into, my ecosystem. So that's why I like Even, because they just democratize it, I feel like, a little bit. And then another one is a similar platform, which I believe is an artist named James Blake. I don't know if he's a partner within it or he helped found it, but he was pushing it a lot. But it's a platform called Vault, and it's very similar to Even. Right now, I believe their goal is to be like an Even, where you can monetize and have like monthly recurring subscriptions, for your fans. But right now, I think they're working towards that. So currently, if you put a song on there, they call it a drop. People can just like swipe to download it, and when they do that swipe, one, you can talk to them on platform, once they download the app, but also you get their information, and they have some light analytics in there. So I'm just so for any platform that allows you to, go ahead.
Are you referencing James Blake from the UK? James Blake?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same James Blake. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. And so I'm so for platforms that give those types of tools and at least give artists their data, for fans that are interested in them, because that's a lifeline of our career, And then the last one was, I mentioned Superphone, or any platform like a Superphone where you can talk directly, to your fans. So Superphone allows you to do batch SMSs and funnels and all that kind of stuff to be able, and also you can do like geo-targeting. So if you got fans who are in another country or another state, you can see, almost like a map of where your people are, and you can start sending blasts to just those segments of people. So if you're running tours in a different city, you can just, target those folk. Joyner Lucas probably is a good case study because he uses that a lot. But those are the 3 that come to mind as far as like just tools for independent artists in a more traditional route. But,
thank you. Those are good.
Yeah.
No, and for bands, I would say the main one that's been around for a long time is called Bands in Town. So local artists all the way up to bands that are playing at Amway or arena level, they all use it. Pretty much give all the info, buy tickets on there. And the other one that a lot of people don't know about is Reverb Nation, that I think even you guys should maybe check out as well. And you can pretty much have all of your music linked on there. And the cool thing that I don't see a lot of apps. It's an app you can just download on your phone. Is there's actual like A&R opportunity where a label will put out like some type of sponsorship where it's like, hey, we're looking for some type of submission for, let's say, a movie like something that you would be into, and you can always submit your music, and there's like hundreds of different ones. So definitely, yeah, I haven't seen a lot of sites like that. Reverb Nation.
Indeed, and they've been around for a while too.
Yeah.
I've gotten the signal a couple of times, so I hate to start wrapping up. You want to drop something real quick?
I got one more to add.
Yeah, please.
Because it's something that everybody knows, and we recently just started doing it with our community, Discord.
Yeah.
A lot of artists, a lot of people just think Discord is for gaming and everything like that, but you have to understand that when you really look at Discord, it is a community into itself. You can literally build Discord to whatever you want it to be. So as an artist, just experiment with Discord and invite people to your Discord. So when you want to do that special drop, or, do y'all think this is good enough for me to drop, or, stuff like that. Or when you do have that big show, you have a community that's already dedicated because they joined your Discord.
Yep.
They know what they signed up for if they're in this Discord. So
Yeah, I feel like the name of the game is less about fandom, it's more about community building. Like if you can build a community, like it's so much power in that, which we can talk more about it later. But yeah,
forever.
And I true, very true. And I love the fact that you mentioned Discord, because not only is it an opportunity to directly engage, but in many ways it could be, as you mentioned, almost like a focus group. Does this work? And you're talking to people that are already like signed up, they're already tuned in. So I hate to get to an end, because I think we could talk another hour.
wrap it up.
Or more. We could talk for another hour more. But I feel compelled to have a lightning round about a subject that we really can't ignore. AI, but more specifically, in more recent news, even though we saw little tidbits of it during the pandemic, that seemed to kind of be, I don't know, they were kind of dispelled and kind of put aside real quick. This environment where we're starting to see, I'm going to use air quotes, where we're starting to see AI artists getting signed. And I use AI artists because sometimes there are people behind them, sometimes they're not. But getting signed, because what does that really mean? Are you really getting signed? If you own the property, are you really signing someone?
Yeah.
But anyway, I love to get since we have so many artists here and creatives here, if you could maybe share just your general thoughts. I mean, I know we can't ignore AI. It is here. It is a tool. But as far as the AI artists, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I think that one thing that I feel like you can never take from music itself is that like spiritual human experience of like creating the music, right? Because we're living beings, and we're spiritual beings, and music is a frequency, right? So it's like the human factor is the humanly spiritual factor is what makes real music, right? So with AI, I see that, you can use it a lot for efficiency, like to maybe get a certain sound, or with Chat GPT, get a certain answer, or different things like that. But I really, I don't know, like I can't get with the AI artists, and you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't, I don't know, something doesn't feel right to me about AI being used with music, because I feel like that's the human spiritual part is taken away, and me, I'm a spiritual person, so I feel like, okay, when you consume music, man, it's like a lot of people think you're just listening, but you're taking the frequency in, you're taking the message in, and there's a vibration there, right? That we create and we send out. This is what made Bob Marley so big and Michael Jackson so big, and these artists that nowadays you don't have the stardom of an artist again, because that was that was back then when you had the artists had this like omnipotent feel to them, right? Yeah, that aura, right? So we're in a different time now, so we don't get that, but that's what moved people. And so one of the things that concerns me is like that we're not headed in that direction of like music was revolutionary, and because you're from the Bronx, you're where from hip hop started and why it started and how we express ourselves against whether it's the machine or the political government, or it started as an art form of expression and trying to uplift a community. So I think we've come so far away from that, and now they're making the AI artists to make another bag to make more money because the game has turned into a cash making machine. So yeah.
I'm gonna devil's advocate this one. I agree to disagree with the way AI is being used right now. I disagree, and I'm sure somebody at this table will agree with me. I disagree with all the graphic designs and everything going on with AI because, like you said, being a graphic designer is literally taking something and putting it together and making a story. Like that flyer that you made, it's supposed to be authentic, not full of bubbly letters and some little cartoon character that AI spit out and it's supposed to do the same thing. It just don't feel the same. But when it comes to music, I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum because I feel like even though AI music is probably going to end up being the future, it's just like the holograms and stuff like that. Eventually, we're going to have people that are writing for the AI. The AI is going to take it, make it their own, and then it's going to end up being this big masterful thing that people are all going crazy over. But at the end of the day, it's still music. It's still, I feel like it's still going to be a community thing. As long as it's communal and the message is still getting pumped out, unity and everything else, I think that AI it'll be okay. And I put that in quotes. Yeah, like I put that in quotes because like if you're a nerd like me, you already kind of know what AI is doing to the world and not just in music. So it's kind of like you have to assume that one day AI is going to either be its own section of the world or it's going to play a pivotal part in what we all do. And that includes music. So it's kind of like, it's almost like the inevitable in a sense. But I do feel where you're coming from, saying like there has to be that grounding of some music still being made authentically because that's what we as humans, we do the journey of time. Music has played a pivotal part in what we have come to be.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. Thank you. I love, the different perspectives.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this. Mainly too because like my community loves talking about this stuff, and the conversations that end up happening in our circle is like, will AI replace the music that we make for brands? You know what I mean? If brands start figuring out ways to create it out. But to your question about AI artists specifically, like, I mean, my prediction is that there's going to be a space for both of it. Like there will be AI artists and also be human artists, and you kind of pick your flavor because I feel like the generation behind us, they're growing up with this being the norm, like AI artists kind of being, even though for us it's kind of unprecedented, for them it's going to be the norm. I even thinking about it, like even going to video games. Like I've had my music on Fortnite. It's probably one of the few video games that I actually play every now and then. But the whole idea, even like for me paying money for a outfit for my character in a video game is like bananas, you know what I mean? But that's like normal, you know what I mean, for that generation. But we came up where it's like I would never pay, like money just for a skin. But now I'm playing it more. And I'd be like, I'd be thinking about just driving it, like a little bit just to get. But I think it's just the exposure to it. So where I'm thinking is like there'll be a space for it because it's just going to get better. It's not going anywhere. We'll just see how much space it actually takes because like you were talking about Michael Jackson. One of my boys sent me a YouTube video. They did a trap soul cover of Billie Jean. I listened to that thing five times in a row. It was really good. Like it was fire. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like the tech is getting there, and it's going to be one of those things where I do believe at a point it can even fool us to see like I can't tell if this is real or fake, or where this originated from. But for me, the real issue is around IP. And like people's intellectual properties, like from the music example, from the designer standpoint, it's like all of this data, all of these AI models are being trained on other people's intellectual property. And that's why like Suno and Udio are going like they're being sued the way that they are. And I think one of them had like $1 billion settlement, you know what I mean? Because again, like these things can't exist without human creation, and there was no permission given for the AI to even really exist the way that it does. It was all, stolen, IP if you want to go there. So I feel like until that gets resolved in a way where it's equitable, like how creators are really being compensated for these AIs being trained on their IP when they didn't give consent. I feel like AI is going to be in this weird place because like it's going to be only so many times where these platforms are going to get sued before they just throw in the towel because it's not sustainable. Even now, like Udio, they stopped their users from exporting their outputs from what they're prompting and generating because Udio, I think it's Udio, is in a like they're brokering a deal with Universal right now. Universal is like, hey, your members can't download this stuff while we're trying to figure this thing out. And even on the other side too, and why I say like I feel like it's going to take some time because even if you do it the right way, you're going to need a lot of buy-in from a lot of artists and a lot of creators, which is going to be really expensive. Because I was on at a conference the other day and we were talking about a case study where it was one of the major motion pictures had. Or major motion picture studios had tried to do a deal with like one of the AI video generators. I think it might have been Runway. And they gave them all of their like historical IP to train their models on, but the outputs just weren't great because you need vast amount of data to be able to produce what is being produced right now because they're scraping the whole internet. So that's why I say it's like until they figure that piece out, I think it's going to be a bit of a wild west, and it's going to take a lot of buy-in to really, I think, get it sustainable and scalable without people getting sued. You know what I mean? So.
Does it affect the sync or has it affected sync?
See, for our industry, they care so much about copyright and who owns what because everybody who owns part of a song has to give a yes. Gotcha. And when it comes to copyright, like the thing with AI is like they took other people's copyright to generate what it is that we're hearing. And so it's like we don't know where this came from, so we're not touching it. Because big brands don't want to get sued. And so that's why like for us, I think we have some time because it's not legal. That's the biggest thing. It's not legal. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Great points. Awesome. Yeah. A lot there. Halston.
No, so for our style of music, I remember the first time I saw AI like really start to get like a little scary it was Plankton from SpongeBob. I don't know if you guys know. No, I'm dead serious. And it's like a fully produced metal song and it sounds like really good. So kind of going off of what he said, I do think it's inevitable and it's right now more of like a shock value. Like, oh, look at this video I made. Yeah. Look at this video I made with Plankton running around and it sounds just like him singing and screaming a metal song. But I do think there's always going to be that avenue where people, especially in our style of music, it's very emotional, very human. And at least I hope that we'll always still have that with our style of music for sure.
Thank you. No doubt. I mean, music will always be here as long as humans are here. And lastly, if we could go around the table super quick, and if you could drop your socials or websites or whatever it is that you would like folks to know about, that they could find you, by all means.
Yes.
Angel.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Creative Angel without an E at the end of creative. And my brand is called Creative Universe, spelled the same way without the E at the end of creative. Shop on creativeuniverse.com. And yeah, just type in Creative Angel on Google. Find me on any platform.
All platforms, DJ_RedTables. If you want to follow the brand, at Free World Generals. If you want a podcast interview, at Free World Radio _. Talk to you soon.
Free world.
Deraj.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I appreciate this talk. Thank you guys for having us. If you want to follow me on everything is at Just Deraj, so that's JustDeraj. And if you're interested in learning more about how to get your music in TV and film, I mentioned my community, which is at rep.indie, so that's rep.indie, if I can spell. So we would love to connect with you and help you, hopefully monetize your music.
And yeah, if you want to follow me and my band, it'll just be at Ease ORL for Orlando, obviously, on Instagram and Facebook, and then Spotify and all other music platforms. It'll just be Ease with the exclamation point, so you can find us.
Thank you. Well, you all have been absolutely phenomenal. You all dropped amazing gems, and I can't express my gratitude enough. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time. And I believe this gentleman here is going to be performing, and you'll be able to see his performance in a linked video in his channels to make sure we get on some attention.
Hey.
Otherwise, we will see you next time. Thank you.
Let's go. Appreciate y'all.